human extraterrestrials went to Italy and they called themselves the Acri, A-K-R-I-J, in which it's called the Friendship Case. And it discusses human extraterrestrials meeting with over 100 different people in Italy, and apparently they had a large base in Italy that they were operating from. Some of these people were tall, some of them were shorter than us, and they had really advanced technology. And this seems to have been an effort to normalize relations between people on Earth and people from outer space, without getting into all the cosmic weird stuff, but just keeping it light and fun, and just let's shake hands, let's get to know each other. So they revealed that this was the name Acri in Sanskrit, that this was their actual symbol in Sanskrit of who they are, and that they had appeared in those ancient cultures. They also said that they had appeared to the Egyptians, and this is what the name Acri would be written as in Egyptian hieroglyphics. When you watch this Italian documentary, it's very fascinating because some of the people who actually met the Acri in person are still alive, and you get to meet them in the documentary. You get to hear what they had to say, you get to see the results of the contacts that occurred, and there's some very strange things that happened because the group was called the Acri. It was also called the W56. They were human-looking extraterrestrials, but as you see here in this illustration, the heights were very different. The tall ones were approximately 12 feet tall. They were wearing ordinary civilian clothes. Like you see here, he's got a typical Oxford-type shirt on. And the shorter one, of course, also looks like us. Now, these three guys, as you hear about in the documentary, were the people who were at the core group that was being contacted. These folks said that they represented a larger confederation, a larger group. As you can see here, the tall one's about twice as tall as they are. The shorter one is significantly shorter than they are. And these people were actually showing up in person, walking around with them, and giving them information. So it's pretty fascinating that these people apparently appeared, and there's over 100 witnesses to this. Now, also they said that their bases were located underneath Italy, and this base in particular was approximately a square shape, more like a rectangle, between Rimini and Ortona. So this is a major part of the whole length of Italy, and it's the base of the W56. It's about 300 kilometers long and 150 kilometers wide, kind of deep below the surface. And what they said, what the W56 or the Acri said, is that they would actually push the land away. They had some kind of dematerialization technology where they could go underground and actually just push the land out of position, and if they ever had to leave, they cranked the field off, and all the surrounding land that was moved away to make this base just moves back to the way it had been before. The whole base just completely disappears. So they're able to just mush things out of the way like that. Well, there's a lot of interesting things about this contact that very nicely dovetail what we hear in the Law of One. For example, the Acri are definitely the good guys, and they say that their ability to help humanity is a direct function of the level of spiritual advancement that we have. The harmony of the people they were contacting was extremely important to whether they could be allowed to appear on Earth or not. And as the harmony of the group fractured, they actually started to get defeated by negative extraterrestrials because they only have as much power as they're given by our harmony. They can only do as much as they're allowed to do by our level of harmony. That fits what the Law of One series says perfectly. They call it the calling, and they say that they have to be called by us. We have to have the desire, we have to have the good karma for them to be able to help us. Now, another really interesting thing here is we have a whole book called Mass Contacts by Stefano Breccia, and that's mentioned in the documentary, describing the spiritual philosophy, to some degree, not too much, of these beings and describing what was going on. Now, one of the witnesses who actually met with these beings in person is featured in the Italian television documentary. And what we find out is that in this magazine, this Italian magazine, Domenica del Corriere, we have the ETs setting up an agreement with him that they would pose for photographs. And these photographs were allowed to be taken and were published in this groundbreaking issue of Domenica del Corriere. So we have a series of photographs that appear that were actually where the ETs could speak to them, sometimes through their radios. Again, sometimes they would appear in person. They could speak through electronic devices as well. And they said, go to such and such place at such and such time. We will be there. Bring your cameras and we will let you photograph us. Now, this is before the era of Photoshop. It's before the era of advanced photo manipulation. But what you see here is pictures of their ships flying over one of these chimneys or towers in Italy. Here's a series of photographs that were part of a deliberately orchestrated treaty between the ETs and humanity. And what they say is that this is one of their ships, and this little black spot on the top is actually a gravitational effect, the result of them creating an electromagnetic bottle around the UFO, and it darkens the area around it, and in some cases it's going to disappear. So there's multiple shots of this UFO in the sky. It has been photo analyzed. There is no evidence of tampering with this photograph. There's no evidence of it being some frisbee that they threw up into the air. It has all the hallmarks of being a massive object that was photographed, making maneuvers. It goes in and out of frame. The focus of the background changes as it goes in and out of frame. Here's a very nice shot of it. You can see the glass dome, and again that distension of the top where it becomes black. There's another example. You can actually see some of the glass here. And there's another example. Now in this case, it may be that the ship was not quite in our reality. It was a little out of focus. So you can see that it kind of looks blurry there. Now this next shot is truly amazing. This is a shot where it's a little out of focus again, but the gravitational distortion effect does not affect the top of the ship here for some reason. There's actually two people standing in it. You can kind of see a slight change in the darkness inside the ship. Those are two people standing there inside this glass dome that allows them to look out. Now again, people say ha 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 ha, but the thing is, this was witnessed by over 100 different people at various times. These beings would show up in person. They could portal things out. One of the agreements that was made, which was kind of strange, and some skeptics say, oh, I don't know if I like that, was that these beings said, if you want us to help you, you need to help us. So in the television show, they talk about how at times they had to use their own money and buy entire truckloads full of food and clothing to give to these extraterrestrial humans. And what they would do if there was a drop-off is they would have the truck driver go off and have a coffee break for a half an hour, and they'd say, go have your coffee and we will unload the truck for you. You don't need to unload the truck, just park it at a certain location. The Acri would portal out the contents of the whole entire truck, all the clothes, all the food. They liked fruit in particular. They were very big on natural food. They weren't so interested in cooked food. They wanted raw, natural food like fruit and vegetables, especially fruit, bananas and so forth. So they'd portal this stuff out of the truck. Then the truck driver would come back and he'd say, wow, you unloaded really fast. And they'd say, yeah, we work quick. But it was the Acri that were doing this. Now these are people that are risking their reputations and careers to come forward on Italian national television and tell this story. American press, not a word. No discussion ever about this case, which is fascinating. Whole books have been written on this case. And as you see, there's all these photographs in the Italian magazine. Now, this is even more mind-blowing because as far as I'm aware, these are the only photographs that we have ever obtained where a human being from Earth was actually brought inside a UFO and was allowed to photograph the controls of the UFO inside the ship itself. you're actually seeing here the controls of the ship. Now, we'll turn it a little bit and take a look at it here. You can see that there appears to be some kind of a hole that you'd put your hand over. And I've seen this in my dreams, actually. I've seen this, there's another image of it there, that you put your fingers over it and light comes out and you can control the movement of the ship. We really don't know what all these different things do. There's a little triangular piece here. There's something that kind of looks like a handle that you can crank. And as we zoom in up close, you can kind of see that crankable handle more, the triangular piece there. And here's this little thing that looks like a box with a little top on it. So we don't really know how all this stuff works, but it's very fascinating.